Well, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome in for the first time in 2017. Welcome into the WNBA 365 network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball world. Back with you folks for the first show of 2017 here this evening on the Offseason Central program for WNBA 365. Joined in the Hangout Live right now for the time being by Reagan Patrick, joining us from the grind city of Memphis, Tennessee, and our good pal Marquez Anderson, a writer from StarSoups.net, as well as contributing now to WOAI News 4 in San Antonio, joining us from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and of course the SoCal tag team, Crystal Thomas, Nisha Stewart, and Cal McClure joining you folks here from the Calamax Sports Studios in San Diego, California. Eric Nemchuk will be along with us shortly. He was on his way home right now from the Ohio State Northwestern women's game tonight. Guys, Happy New Year. How was the holiday season? More importantly, though, good to see you guys.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Oh, hey, my bad. Something happened for a little bit.
Hi.
Hi.
Again, folks, once more, but again, Eric Nemchuk will be joining us on his way back, of course, from the Ohio State and Northwestern game. Folks, we'll be here for the next hour, and again, we are trying out a new start time for this evening. We'll be playing around with our start time to kind of see what all fits. As you may know, of course, some of us are going back to school or back in school, and or some of us are going back to work after the holiday break. But of course, folks, as normal, Facebook, Twitter, live chat box are wide open for you folks over on Facebook.com/WNBA365, or find us over on Twitter at WNBA365, at Calamac3, at ShortyMamba24, at _rap, RAP24, at Omarquez, or at Pup1010, or at Nemchaki for Eric's handle on Twitter with the hashtags of WNBA365 and #OneNetwork. Or if you have viewing line tonight, folks, you can find the live chat box on the right side of your screen and send in your questions, comments, or concerns, and we'll get to them when we do have a break in the action. Tonight's breakdown, folks, will be a quick discussion about what has occurred overseas with the events over the weekend. We'll get to some quick college scores and notes for you to get to our first of 12 WNBA team recaps, beginning tonight with the San Antonio Stars this evening for the first of 12. And again, we'll be here until 9:30 this evening. And again, as also, folks, we will again be testing out a couple more start times to look for a couple like 8 o'clock, 8:30 start times for the week to see what really does fit for all of us here as we do resume normal activities following the holiday break. And I guess to kind of start off here, of course, Shorty, we had one show back that had the whole last couple weeks off for Christmas and the New Year. Shorty, how was the Christmas and New Year holiday spent by you this year?
Overall, it was good. Spending a lot of time with family and friends. Over the holiday weekend, including Christmas and New Year's Eve and New Year's. So it was just an overall good time for me.
Now, Reagan, I know that you're going to be in the middle of a pretty hectic frequent flyer/travel schedule. You're just telling us all off here before you came on here, including a trip to SoCal in a couple weeks to both LA and San Diego. But I guess how was the holiday, though, for you, getting a chance to kind of take a breath and take a break from school?
I didn't have much of a break. Been applying to internships, watching kids, hanging with family. I mean, haven't really had a day to myself yet, so we'll see how tomorrow goes.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks when you come out here and visit all of us in LA and in San Diego. And, of course, Marquez, you have probably been one of the busier bees in the hive, of course, tacking on a new position, a new internship or new job, one of those two, I guess. Marquez, fill the folks in about what you got to go through and what you have been able to do now, I guess, now for the Spurs of the NBA, at least with the local television affiliate down there in San Antonio.
I got to intern with the News 4 San Antonio, actually towards the beginning of the season, kind of in the middle between the ending of the WNBA season and the beginning of the NBA. And it's just a really great opportunity that I just kind of pursued out of just luck. I kind of just reached out and got it. I sent some samples and stuff, and luckily they chose me. And I was really, 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 really grateful for the opportunity.
You can tell by all the reallys that he's really pumped up. And again, folks, you can find Marquez with either StarSoups.net and also on WOAI News 4 in San Antonio. And as our good buddy Todd Minch just said, WOAI used to listen to them cover the Spurs when they were a 5,000-watt station back.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, there you go. Crystal, I think probably you and I have probably shared the low-key version of the holiday season, perhaps. But I guess how was the holiday break for you up there in the San Fernando Valley?
I'm always low key for what people know. Shut up. It was cool. I just be working, just chill, hung out with family. Enjoyed my New Year's with some friends and family as well. Pretty much just watch basketball. Shut up, Marquez, and just kind of just relax a little bit. Taking this break from school that I have until it starts back up. So kind of just right now.
And with that, guys, we'll dive into our opening tip-off headlines for tonight's program. Starting, guys, with the pretty tragic and very disturbing news that, of course, broke over the weekend while, of course, you were away for the holidays. But, of course, guys, the major news that was reported during the time we were away was the Istanbul nightclub attack that occurred sometime before the new year actually hit. And it was a pretty sketchy and very chaotic situation. A lot of WNBA players were at or near the scene of this attack that happened. But, of course, we were kind of updating you folks in the wee hours of the morning when we got the news from Doug Feinberg and some other sources that were covering the situation. And all the players that were involved in this or were nearby were accounted for and were safe during this incident. And Shorty, to kind of, I guess to start off our discussion on this, again, Shorty, I think we've talked about this more so in previous off seasons, again, that people sometimes forget not only the struggle, but also the dangers that are faced by these athletes and by pretty much Shorty by any American that does go overseas at this point in regards to what we have seen rising in Europe and in the Middle East lately. Shorty, how about your initial reaction to hearing the news break and then your overall reaction to the whole story being broken and then how it did finish and how it was resolved?
When the news broke, I was just overall, I wouldn't say I was scared, but I was more of alert, because, of course, we have been hearing throughout, the months, especially in 2016 alone, there were numerous terrorist attack, happening over in a lot of places in Europe. But, of course, when it happened and at least this close to, you would say, WNBA players, it just had me and everyone else alert. And it was good that, a lot of the women's basketball media was on top of things and searching for players and trying to see where they were their whereabouts at. And just luckily and thank goodness that, all of the players that were near the attack site were all accounted for.
Rap, going to you again on this very sketchy, very chaotic scene again that occurred just before the New Year, ladies and gentlemen, again, the attack on the Istanbul nightclub again, where, Rap, I think more so my ears perked up and my eyes got a little bit enlarged when I heard that there were 3 LA players involved near the nightclub: Essence Carson, Jantel Lavender, Chelsea Gray, notably the 3 players that were at the scene or close by. There were a lot of other players celebrating the New Year that were near this incident. And again, Rap, we were, I guess, kind of fixated on Twitter and Facebook for all the news and stuff. And again, it was Doug Feinberg and a couple other offbeat reporters that were on top of the situation. Brian Agler also confirming for the LA fans about the condition of the 3 players that were involved from the Sparks. Rap, how about the same for you? Initial reaction and overall final reaction to about how the story broke and how it was resolved with these players being involved in a pretty chaotic scene, to say the least.
Well, I was a little late on the scene just because over the break I have not been on social media much. I've been on Snapchat, but Twitter and Instagram I have not been on lately. So when I actually found out about it, I went to Snapchat just to see who all was, who everyone was. Well, the players, of course. And afterwards, I got on Twitter just to see if we hadn't heard anything else. But, I'm just happy everyone's safe, like Shorty said.
So again, Marquez, you had some inside information about Mariah Jefferson's whereabouts, according to what you had sent us in our network panel and network broadcast team messaging a couple days ago. But again, I think that maybe only Mariah Jefferson may have been the only player, at least one of them that was involved from San Antonio. But I guess, Marquez, same question, initial reaction and then overall reaction to the entire story breaking, then above all being resolved with no one being harmed in this incident.
Yeah, when it first broke out, I immediately got to thinking about her and her family because some of them actually follow me and we've had some conversation before. So I immediately went to Snapchat, reached out to her to see if she was okay. And she got back to me I think the morning after, really early in the morning, and she indeed was okay. And it was her and Kayla McBride that were over there. But they both were okay. Nothing really severe happened. Of course, when something like that happens, you're really on edge, but everything ended up being okay.
And I guess, Crystal, to go to you and kind of shake up the offense real quick is more so again about how I put out the first story that broke on the network Facebook page about, just like maybe a week or so after the WNBA implements a player safety and security app for them to use, that may have, I think, played a role in perhaps saving more lives, I think, for their sake at least, with that. And we'll get to everyone's take about that momentarily. But I guess, Crystal, starting off with you on this question. In your mind, WNBA looks like they did something at least right for the first time in quite a while with that brand new security app for the players. Crystal, overall thoughts on perhaps being somewhat of a lifesaver for the players, perhaps in this incident, of course, and also along the lines with your reaction to the entire story.
Foremost, I want to say, I hope anyone who's involved, not just the players, but the innocent people, I hope that they're okay, and I hope there's nothing completely wrong, and I hope everybody's all right, and prayers go out to the families of people who were injured and hurt. But I think the safety app came out at a great time. I mean, I think it's something that they probably talked about. We all know that these players are ultimately risking their lives, to make a living for themselves and their families, and kind of like a fellow WNBA player, Imani, was mentioning earlier this week. I mean, they shouldn't have to risk their lives just so they can make a good life for them and in their future. So the app, I'm not sure if the app, if they use the app, I'm pretty sure it did, but it did come out at such a great time. And hopefully, something changes to where these women, don't have to sustain themselves to that kind of harm. And hopefully, eventually, one of these days, they won't have to go through that stuff by going overseas anymore.
Again, Shorty, the WNBA, perhaps for the first time in quite a while, may have gotten something right in regards to, again, implementing a brand new app for the players to use for security purposes, whether that's police or what have you. But with the times that we have been stuck in, Shorty, and I think Crystal hit it right, though, but Shorty, do you agree, though, that perhaps the WNBA, hit it out of the ballpark with putting that new app in place? Of course, you can't foreshadow anything, but, probably a week or so right before an incident happens, and they do have to, in fact, use that app, as we saw with the attack in Istanbul. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think, the league got it right, to allow players to have a safety app, to where they can keep track, and be safe. And I also think that the app may possibly, now I'm not for sure, but I think the app may possibly shows a map of different danger zones and things like that within, the overseas landscape. So they know they can see where some places to possibly avoid. So if the app does include that, then that'll definitely be, a 1+1 for the players that's playing overseas.
Now, Reagan, I was fortunate to play 3 years overseas when I was playing international baseball. I've gone and covered a tournament every so often when I get, time to go and do it. And I recall that more so the year that I recall best having some type of increased security was in Rome, Italy in 2009 and in Mexico in 2010 with armored security. Now, a quick story about this. When I played in Italy in 2009, our Best Western Hotel was adjacent to the Turkish embassy. So there was Italian military guards on every corner in armored vehicles 24/7 all the time I was there. And also in Mexico, we had the Mexican police in Mexico, military provide 4 guards on each corner with loaded AK-47s on every street corner, wherever we went and nearby our hotel. But I guess, your overall thoughts about, again, the WNBA implementing this security app and also the timing of it too, again, about a week or so or a couple days before another incident occurs overseas. What do you think about this and why?
I have not had time to actually research anything about this app, but I think it came at the perfect time. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I think that they got it right.
So, again, Marquez, so 2 people right now at least agree in regards to the timing of the security app for the players being done. And again, Marquez, I know we can't foreshadow or can't look into the future about what next major catastrophe is going to happen. Marquez, what does the app, I guess, that the WNBA has implemented for its players, does it sort of, I guess, give them some type of peace of mind while they are playing overseas during the times that we are still sadly stuck in right now in 2017?
Oh yeah, I think the app is just always a nice thing to have in general. When you go to foreign places, you don't really know exactly what to expect because you're so new and different, and you have to get acclimated. So an app like this really does give you a peace of mind, at least to have as a little bit of a sense of comfort. Because I mean, obviously, it's not going to protect you in life or death situations, but it's always something to have in case something like that arises, and it did.
You know, and Crystal as well. Outside the Lines today was filled and hosted by Kate Fagan, one of the great writers from ESPNW.com, and a frequent panelist on Around the Horn as well on ESPN, who of course has done a great job covering all the ins and outs of women's sports. And she had Lindsey Harding on via Skype today in a very quick 45-second clip that was shown today, or at least put out on the OTL Twitter account. And Kate pretty much asked Lindsey, you know, why do you guys keep doing this in regards to keep going overseas and putting yourself in danger and harm's way when, you know, all these attacks happen. And, you know, Lindsey pretty much just said, you know, not only for money, but also for the love of the game. And they love continuing to go and overseas and play. And of course, the wage gap, as we know. But I guess, Crystal, what do you think, though, about what might happen in the future, though? Do you think that more and more players will either start keep going overseas, or do you think that right now the time might be right for some players to start withdrawing from their commitments overseas due to what, of course, has happened in recent weeks and, of course, last year?
Well, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, for one, like, you know, what Lindsey Harding was saying, for those who didn't watch the interview, they can't, a lot of them can't just leave overseas. I mean, they have to be released by their teams first. I mean, a lot of these overseas teams, I'm not gonna say they're shady, but a lot of them run things a little differently. You know, as you know, there's been a lot of contract disputes with certain players and certain teams and stuff. So that's one reason why they just can't leave. I mean, they can't just ask for a release. Like, their team has to, their team makes them feel like there has to be a reason for them to release, even though a lot of them feel like their safety is, you know, is being taken. The other one, yes, love of the game, but at the same time, I feel like if they didn't have to go overseas, you could still love the game and still work out and still not have to feel like you have to put your life in danger to make a living better for you and your family. And three, I mean, I just think some of them don't really have a choice. I feel like if they would have had a choice, they would have left a long time ago. But it's, I mean, maybe we will see in more years, you know, players start to lean not going overseas. But I feel like for a lot of the rookies who are on those minimum contracts and stuff like that, you're probably not going to see them withdraw anytime soon. So I think for players, in order for them to withdraw, they have to feel like that. You know, one of the things is the income has to be bigger. That's one main thing. But I feel like, honestly, you're probably never going to stop having players go overseas. And I just think, you know, certain things have to be done in order to make it safer for everyone involved.
You know, and as Chris alluded to, pretty much some teams, some leagues actually give out like liability waivers pretty much that players have to sign. It's pretty much, and it's like another addition to their contract, basically, where they would have to be released from the waiver, not just a contract too, for them to leave their overseas club as well. But again, we'll have more about that, guys. One quick comment from Todd about this. He says, depends on where it is. He says, Michelle Snow always said that she felt safe and comfortable in Israel. Now she's also in Turkey. Seems majority of top players are there due to the fact, as we already brought up, guys, depends on the strong league and or how competitive the league actually is as well. Even though, folks, at the WNBA is an off-season, you can still score free shipping on any U.S. order over $25 from the WNBA store. Just enter the promo code WNBA25 at checkout. One store, every team over on WNBAstore.com at this point in time. With that, guys, we'll quickly check on the women's D1 scoreboard this evening. Only one game on this Wednesday night, or Tuesday night, I should say, in regards to the top 25 scores. This is a game that Eric Nimchok, folks, was at. He could be again joining us sometime soon. It's number 11, Ohio State, getting by Northwestern 94-87 as Kelsey Mitchell drops a game-high 33 points in the victory for the Buckeyes this evening. That is a lone game tonight that we'll get to here for the college score segment, at least at this point in time for the team. But again, Ohio State winning over Northwestern. I guess, Shorty, I know that, you know, we haven't really been here, you know, enough days to really talk about the college season so far. But I guess, Shorty, from either games you've seen or teams that you've seen play, Shorty, What's your overall thoughts on the entire college season so far? As again, college play started up just a couple days ago. But what have you seen? What have you liked? What have you disliked? What have you seen though, and why about the college season so far for women's hoops?
Well, just overall for me, I'm going to cut to the chase. UConn is still that team. UConn is still at its best. It's still the most dominant, team in the field. And everyone thought with a lot of their, seniors from last year graduating that it would be some actual parity, like the league in the landscape of it would be on an even level playing field, but that hasn't been the case. I mean, I'd say one of their closest I wouldn't say lost, but a team that nearly almost upset them, I would say it would be, their first game, which is against South Florida, that was that close to upsetting them. But it was either South Florida or Florida State. I think it was Florida State. Yeah. Florida State. So that was the only one team that almost upset them, in their first game. And then after that, I mean, they just blown the competition out of the water. So we'll see on down the line if anyone really, can step up. But so far, no one has, come close.
Again, Reagan, of course, I've been doing my work on the D2 level and have seen very few to very little D1 games so far this season. But, of course, UConn, in spite of what people may say about it being a quote-unquote rebuilding year, not necessarily the case. They're still out there, taking teams to the woodshed in a year that a lot of people thought maybe it'd be a different team's time to shine. But UConn saying until that the title is, pried out of our hands, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I guess, Reagan, what else other than maybe UConn have you seen those so far through at least the non-conference part of the Division I season so far for women's hoops?
Also, to add to what Shorty said, Maryland almost beat UConn as well, but
almost.
And I agree with Gino. Someone just needs to kick their butts and do it well and quick. But I think this year, it's going to be really, really good. Although UConn's undefeated now, I'm kind of ready for a tournament to start, if I'm being honest. I haven't really been paying attention to, most of the games, but the games that I do watch, they have been very, very good. So I think the tournament this year should be really interesting.
So Marquez, again, we've seen a lot of good stuff in regards to either UConn, but again, we've had a lot of other perennial upsets already take place this year. But MA, what have you seen, though, if you've had time to, of course, look through the college season? What have you seen, though? What have you liked about it so far?
I've actually been really impressed with Oregon State. Last year, of course, they lost Jamie Wisner, Pac-12 Player of the Year, Ruth Hamlin, Defensive Player of the Year in the Pac-12 a year ago. But they still, somehow, someway, are still trudging on through the Pac-12. They upset Washington a couple of days ago. Big performance from Sydney Weiss, I think 26.6 assists. But I just think they're proving you can't count them out. And I think a lot of people did because of what they lost last year. And I mean, I guess that was kind of warranted considering you lose two WNBA players or prospects, but they're still there. And like everyone else has said, UConn, I don't think you can really say too much about them besides that no one has really found a way to catch up, even with what they lost as well. I mean, it's just a matter of them reloading every year.
Crystal, again, in spite of this being a quote-unquote rebuilding year, as I already alluded to with Reagan earlier, but again, UConn still finds a way to get it done night in and night out, whether that's Kaylou Samuelson, homegrown kid out of Southern California, playing sick, vomiting on the bench during the course of the game, still leading her team to a win, a very important and very impressive win for them, at least with her battling, being ill and sick. Other than maybe UConn, Crystal, what else have you seen, though, that you may have liked so far in regards to the women's hoop season thus far?
Oh, man, Sydney Weiss. She's killing it out there. Nobody's really talking about her. I think she's having a pretty good season so far. I think the reason why nobody's really talking about Sydney Weiss is because you have a player by the name of Kelsey Plum that's also in the Pac-12, and I think they're showing her attention more on that side. But Sydney Weiss has been killing it, man. I mean, she just got the Pac-12 3-point record. I mean, other than that terrible sign that I keep seeing Oregon State has, Marquez is what I'm talking about. She's just been doing so well. I think that's one of the stories that we will hear more about. UConn, I'm not really surprised that UConn's dominating, but Maryland was the closest so far in, when they were competing with UConn. And I agree with same thing Reagan said. I mean, Gino's telling them like, y'all gonna get beat one day. Just wait on it. We don't know who's gonna do it. I thought Maryland could do it. Maryland was close. I mean, I don't know who else they have left to play so far, but tournament, maybe it's gonna be like a Cinderella team that comes out. I mean, I'm like Reagan though. March is when all the madness happens. No pun intended. That was an accident, by the way. That was truly an accident. But
Sure.
no, it was. But I mean, you know, I waiting for the tournament's gonna be exciting, and we'll see what happens. Like those are pretty much been the storylines I've been following.
Guys, a couple comments quick from Todd Mintz. Todd first says that he had a friend who went to Reynolds Coliseum to see the NC State Wolfpack upset Notre Dame. Shorty, his question, first of all, he's asking everybody. We'll start with Shorty. Shorty, in your mind, does anybody have enough firepower or enough in your mind to knock off UConn this season?
I think there are a couple of teams. You know, I actually thought Notre Dame was going to be that team, you know, because they do have, you know, some talent this year, you know, to knock them off, but it certainly didn't happen. I also think, what's that other team? Don Staley's team. Don Staley's, yes.
South Carolina.
South Carolina, definitely. You know, you have the twin towers of Coates and Wilson, so I think they can potentially knock them off. And Baylor is still in the mix as well, even though their last game was against, you know, UConn wasn't really, you know, all what we thought it, you know, would have been. But I think those teams can potentially knock them out. And also, you know, as Crystal brought up, I think a Cinderella team as well. Someone out left field that we wouldn't even imagine would be another team to take them down.
So, Reagan, how about you? Is there anybody out there still standing that in your mind could take down UConn at some point this season, whether it's regular season or in March Madness?
Well, their conference is trash, so I don't
Really?
I don't expect them to get beat in conference play. But you know, come tournament time, I think I hope
You praying?
I'm praying, and I am the biggest Notre Dame fan out there. But this year, I even had my doubts that, you know, that we would lose, and we did. So who knows? I'm praying for a miracle.
Marquez, how about you? Is there anybody out there that, in your mind, that could take down the Huskies sometime this season at all?
Before I answer that, I forgot to give props to Duke. I don't think any of them as they have been this year. Lexi Brown and Rebecca Greenwell have been terrific. But
Yes.
to answer that question, I actually thought at the beginning of the season Baylor would be the team to do it because they have great size, some depth. They have a really dynamic scorer in Alexis Jones. Nina Davis is steady, but they didn't really play to their potential that game. So I think if they have another go-round, they could get them, potentially Maryland again if they were to ever meet again, maybe in the tournament. But maybe, I know they got really beaten badly by them last year, but maybe Mississippi State, I know they've been itching for another chance to play them again. They're undefeated as well. Victoria Vivians is a good scorer for them. They have defense, they have size down low. But other than that, I don't really know. It's really hard to say because UConn's has been playing so well, and no one has really played with that consistency like them. So I guess we'll just have to see.
Crystal, what about you? What do you think about this? Again, Todd's question once more. Do you think anybody out there has enough to take down UConn and their almighty win streak and their record so far this year, yes or no?
Well, definitely not Duke not paying attention to which side they come out on. That's definitely not going to get it done. I know that's a different story in itself, but how do you not remember what side you were on the that's a different I think someone can beat UConn. Will it be this year? We don't know. But they haven't lost. Their last streak was the last time their streak was in, it was by Baylor, right? When Baylor had Griner and
I think it was Stanford.
Stanford.
Okay, it was Stanford. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, will it be this year? Who knows? I mean, I see a lot of holes in that team's game this year. I mean, all teams have faults, all teams have problems, but you can see some of UConn's problems. But it seems like they mask it so well by what the talent that they do have. And I mean, can they lose this year? Maybe. Will they? I don't know. I mean, for Reagan's sake, let's hope it is Notre Dame because I would love to see that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but we just don't know who it is right now.
Oh, wait. To add something else to this, they played South Carolina on February 13th. To me, South Carolina is a whole different team this year, even though they lost Tiffany Mitchell. They have Alicia Gray. Love her. Loved her in North Carolina. I think if South Carolina plays scrappy enough, they can play with UConn.
All right, guys, real quick. We're against the clock here and we want our next one. But Christy Wilson asked him in a little foreshadowing, but I guess, Shorty, yes or no? What about Stanford and the UConn's run perhaps as well?
That would be almost fool's gold, but I don't see it.
Rap, how about you?
Nah.
MA, how about you?
No, actually, Stanford, I think they actually requested to end that series with them for the time being because I guess they realized they don't really have the horses to compete anymore. So, no.
Crystal, what do you think?
Not a chance.
So everyone in disapproval of that. But it seems like lately, though, guys, with streaks at Stanford has been the UConn kryptonite. So I guess if they have a streak, just let them play Stanford at Maples and we'll see how it goes. With that, folks, as Reagan already brought up again, but March Madness is coming up in roughly 2 months, but it's going to be here around the corner as 64 teams will battle things out for the right to be named and crowned national champs. All regional sites will include Bridgeport, Connecticut, Lexington, Kentucky, Oklahoma City, and Stockton, California. The national semifinals and finals will take place March 31st to April 2nd at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. For more information for tickets, please visit ncaa.com/tickets for more information. With that, guys, we'll now move on to the first of 12 upcoming WNBA seasonal team recaps beginning tonight with the San Antonio Stars. I'm glad to have our resident Stars analyst, Mr. Anderson, in the hangout tonight. At least Marquez. We do know, of course, have Stephen Anderson always ready to come on if need be. But of course, guys, the Stars this year finishing the season 7-27. This is coming off a back-to-back sixth-place finish. This is the 11th time, guys, 11th time that in either Utah or San Antonio franchise history that they do not make the postseason, and the 6th time in franchise history that they had 10 or fewer wins this season, including those days back in Salt Lake City. Shorty, overall thoughts on the very tough season for San Antonio overall? What do you got?
Yeah, it definitely was a really tough season for them. I mean, coming into the season, they already, knew that they would be without their lead guard, Danielle Robinson, who had a Achilles surgery, and then also Ruth Riley coming in, as the new GM after, news was announced that Dan Hughes, it would be his last season before, stepping down overall. But they had some ups and downs, more downs, sadly. But to look on the bright side, I mean, they did retire Becky Hammond's jersey on June 27th, number 25. And then, the injuries start to pile up for them. They lost Kayla McBride to a right foot fracture. And then they eventually, lost Dearica Hamby to pregnancy. And near the end of the season, Jane Appel Marinelli, announced her retirement. But overall, there was a bright light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, they won the draft lottery, number 1 pick overall, and they also hired longtime assistant coach Vicki Johnson for the 2017 season.
So again, Reagan, once more to run down those numbers. Again, San Antonio, 20 games under 500, back-to-back last-place finishes. And again, the 11th time in franchise history, while they're in Utah or in San Antonio, they have been without a run to the postseason, and the 6th time in franchise history they won 10 or fewer games in the season stretch. Rap, overall thoughts? I know that you love Kayla McBride as much as all of us do, but overall thoughts on a pretty troubling year down there in the Lone Star State for the Stars?
Well, I mean, of course, when you look at their record, you think, oh, well, they just sucked. But if you actually look through the schedule and you look at how some of the games went down, they had they had some pretty good wins, although it was only 7 of them. They had some pretty good wins. The first 6 games, they went 1-5, but they beat the Sky. And the other 5 games that they lost, they lost by less than 10 points in each of those 5 games. So K-Mac got hurt halfway through the season. They had 17 games left to play. The first half of the season, they were still doing pretty all right. So I think the injuries just became too much for them. They didn't have enough. I don't know what you call it, but they just didn't have it for the second half of the season. And I mean, I wouldn't say getting the first pick for this draft was a win for them, just because where do you go? Like, who do you pick? What do you need?
Coats.
Yeah, I would go in that direction, but some people would say Diamond. So you just really never know.
And Reagan, to echo the stat that he brought up about the 7 wins, Todd Mintz was right on point in regards to sort of covering, I guess, but he had it right, though. They won 7 games. The irony, though, that he says they beat Chicago, ATL twice, Seattle, and Indy, all playoff teams. So I guess that does count for a little bit of a bright spot, I guess. They can say, hey, 7 wins, but hey, they were all against playoff teams and playoff contenders, I guess. So, all right, Marquez, I know that you've had a long time to chew on the subject, but again, once more, 7-27, back-to-back last place finishes for SA. Again, the 11th time in either Utah or SA that they, again, don't make the postseason. Again, the 6th time that they have been with 10 or fewer wins in the entire team history. Marquez, you live and die with this team as much as you do with the Spurs, so let's hear it, man. What do you got?
Yeah, it was a rough one, but promising in a lot of ways, in my opinion, at least, because in a lot of those losses, we were competitive. It's not like we were getting blown out each and every night. We were playing hard. We were playing tough. We were playing good defense. I think a lot of our problems came on the offensive side, because I want to say for the 2nd straight year, we were last in points per game, overall field goal percentage, and 3-point percentage. So that kind of did us in a lot of times. Said, we were in a lot of these games. I know we were able to hang on with the Sparks, I think, in both meetings until the very end. We played Minnesota tough at least once. So I think for me, I focused on the little things we did well instead of the more negative things. On another note, Mariah Jefferson played well. We've had some surprise rookies play well. Haley Peters was a surprise for some. But I just think another year together and maybe a different direction in terms of offensive style would do us a little bit better for this coming season. But I don't think this number 1 pick is a big win either, because like everyone said, where exactly do you go? You can make arguments for a lot of people, but we'll get to that eventually. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that you just kind of have to keep going on with.
So once more, Crystal, again, just so everyone's on the same page once more, but again, Crystal, Stars 7-27, last place Western Conference, back-to-back finishes in the cellar this year for SA. Again, 11th time in franchise history. And again, it's 20 years of existence. Again, 11th time they missed the postseason. And the 6th time in the season they won 10 games or less in their franchise history. Crystal, where do you start in your mind with the Stars this season?
Well, one of those games that that Marquez is talking about. Just say they were this close until somebody threw in the air and lost the ball in the air. I'm not gonna say the player's name. Embarrassed the Stars fans furthermore. But let's just say y'all were this close to winning that game against Minnesota. It was a good game. We really were. But yeah, I mean, since Becky Hammond left, I mean they knew. I think they knew that they were gonna have a tough rebuilding stage, but I don't think they knew that it was gonna be this tough. I don't think anybody realized that the Stars would be bad for this long, and it's kind of sad to watch them, honestly, because they were once a top team in the West, and now they're a team that people kind of just scoff at when they see them play on their schedule. And I'm not going to say a lot of teams take them lightly, but I think they're at the point now where it's kind of like how Dallas was. I mean, you kind of look at them and you're like, oh, okay, that's a game where we can redeem ourselves on. I'm not saying you should take any team lightly. I mean, these are all professionals. They're all in the league for a reason. So I feel like every team should be taken with the same amount of respect. But it seems like you look at a team like San Antonio, and it's kind of sad. it's not the same. Hopefully, for their sake, they do pick up Coates. I don't think they need another guard. They have too many of that position there. And I know Diamond DeShield, and I know how Marquez feels about the Diamond DeShields thing. So for their sake, I hope they don't. I hope they don't go with that. But that VJ only got the deal that she got, I feel like that's not enough time to actually rebuild the team like she wants to, and I feel like that's enough time for them to actually see what could go on from that. I mean, most rebuilding teams take about like 2-3 years before they actually make a stamp on themselves. So hopefully San Antonio has a better season next year. I would love to see them back as a competing. I'm not gonna lie, I don't want them to be the top team because my
exactly.
But hopefully, I would love to see them. Up. I would love to see them competitive again.
A couple comments real quick, guys. Christy Wilson first says about the Stars, says, think they can use some help on the defensive end, for one, and also Todd with another stat real quick. He said they rank 4th in defensive points allowed, which means nothing according to him. It's more about the pace of play on the offensive front for Todd, of course, as he as we've talked about it a lot of times, guys, with Dan Hughes and the offensive formations that they were throwing at teams last year. They were the worst shooting team and worst allowed in 3-point defense, dead last in possessions with 70 points per game as well. So just a couple things to put out there real quick. With that, Shorty, let's get us a couple of off-season talking points. First and foremost, Shorty, I guess the big question for me is, what do you do with Danielle Robinson?
That is an interesting one. I mean, there has been so much talk here and there. Some people might say request, a trade for her, look for a trade deal because we're not sure if her and Mariah Jefferson can play together with both of them being at the 1, and then they possibly can just slide D-Rob at the 2. So that's going to be an interesting thing and definitely going to be an option for the Stars to figure out.
Rap, what do you think? What is the best case scenario for the Stars involving Danielle Robinson, of course, off last year with the injury, recuperating, and then rehabbing it? What do you think, though, is the most, logistical thing to do in your mind about D-Rob for 2017?
Well, we know she can't come off the bench because I don't think she'd be willing to come off the bench. But I think trading her would be hard because no team knows how she's going to come back from recovering from her injury. Sliding her over to the 2 would move K-Mac to the 3, and then you would really have to think about, your draft pick. And moving K-Mac over to the 3 and D-Rob to the 2 just won't work. So, they're just stuck. I feel sorry for the Stars actually right now because I just wouldn't know what to do.
Marquez might be fuming over there. Marquez, what do you think, though, is the best case scenario for the Stars and Danielle Robinson?
I'm actually on the team that we should trade her. Luckily for the Stars, she is actually overseas right now. I think in her first game, like a couple of days ago, she had 4 points and 4 assists in like 20 or 21 minutes of action. So if she's able to perform well overseas, that gives you a little bit more leverage because, like everyone said, you can't really make a decision on how she's going to come back because Achilles injuries are really tough. But I don't think having her, Mo, Jeff, and Caleb at the 1, 2, and 3 would be really helpful because we are already in teams from 3. And ideally, your shooting guard is going to be able to shoot from back there. So I don't think that would be the best fit for her. And then having them 1, 2, 3, that puts us really small. That makes us really small on the perimeter. And I don't think that's a position that we would want ourselves to be in either. So I just think you got to go do your due diligence and see if you can get a center for her. But if not, maybe an additional pick and then have someone that can provide some offense in the draft, whoever that may be.
We now, folks, are proud and privileged to welcome in our other correspondent, our good pal Eric Nimchok, joining us, the WNBA beat writer from FanRag Sports. FanRag Sports, of course, joining us back in his home base in Elmhurst, Illinois. Eric, good to see you, man. How was the game tonight?
It was really good. It was very exciting, high scoring, high tempo. Got to see some familiar faces. Cheryl Reeve was there scouting. The new head coach and GM of the Chicago Sky, Amber Stocks, was there scouting. So it was a good time.
Good to hear, buddy. Good to hear. And again, Ohio State with the win tonight, folks, over Northwestern in that game this evening. Eric, we were in the middle of the Stars recap. But first and foremost, want to ask, how was the holiday season for you, sir?
It was great. Thank you for asking.
Glad to hear. We'll get back on track now, Eric. So again, recapping the season for the Stars. Again, Eric once more, and again, I've said this already a few times, but again, Eric, Stars 20 games below 500, 7-27, back-to-back finishes in the Western Conference basement. The 11th time, Eric, in franchise history, the team has not gone to the postseason, and the 6th time in team history, including Utah, where they had won 10 games or fewer in the season. Eric, overall thoughts before we get to the point that we were on, your overall take, though, about the struggle bus for the Stars this season.
It was a disaster. It started poorly when they didn't get the number 1 overall pick. Granted, Mariah Jefferson was probably their best player this season and their lone bright spot, but really would have been nice to have Brianna Stewart. I'm sure Marquez would agree with me. And then, just from injuries, Dearica Hamby got pregnant. Not really an injury, I'm sorry. But and then Kayla McBride breaking her foot. It was, and Dan Hughes retiring, Jana Palmarinelli retiring. It was just they never really got off to a good start. It was kind of expected that they weren't going to be that great of a team this season, but I think it was even worse than a lot of people imagined because they just weren't able to get anything going. There was no continuity, and it was kind of assumed that there would be a rebuilding process. But other than Mo Jeff, I didn't really see much to be looking forward to, honestly. So they're in a really tough spot right now.
By the way, Eric, Christy Wilson wrote in and just wanted to say hi with a couple of waving hand emojis to you.
Hello.
Crystal, we were on you talking about Danielle Robinson. Now, again, I was going to say, you probably would know best because you actually got to, meet D-Rob at a game earlier this year when the Stars weren't playing in Los Angeles. She was just out there visiting, I guess, on either her rehab assignments or what have you. But Christy also said, guys, trading her would be too hard. I mean, what team would want her most? Crystal, we've talked about this off air, but of course, LA would be the perfect marriage, apparently, for D-Rob coming to Los Angeles, according to many people, including Marquez, because Marquez has talked about that plenty of times. But Crystal, though, in your mind, though, Crystal, though, in your mind, though, what is the best case scenario, though, for the Stars to do with D-Rob, though, for 2017?
Did he say Taker? We don't want it. Honestly, D-Rob to LA, that would make the offense stop. And here's why. That's what LA has. LA is really dominant on using their bigs and getting their bigs the ball. When you have a ball-dominant point guard, your big's not going to get the ball. So, therefore, Nneka, Candace, and Gentel won't get the ball. So, therefore, our post game will not be as good as it was. Therefore, exactly, we will have people just going in there dominating. That was one of the reasons why LA was able to win the championship this year is because their ball movement was great. They got their post players involved. I mean, look, Nneka was the MVP. Do you see that happen? LA doesn't need her.
Nope.
I'm pretty sure some people feel differently. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who really feel differently about the situation. I'm pretty sure there's some people like, yeah, LA could use her. But I don't know. I mean, that does put San Antonio in such a tough spot. And you don't want to have her play the 2 because then you have Kevin McBride at the 3, which really didn't end well when they tried it the first time. And then you also don't want a situation at Dallas where you have obviously Sims and Skylar Diggins who can't play with each other because one's more ball dominant than the other, and they kind of get in each other's way. So I guess I would hate to say that you have to wait and see, but you're probably going to have to wait and see, and then I guess make a decision, either during training camp or during the season. But it really puts San Antonio in such a tough spot to pretty much a guard that's kind of like the guard you had, but a little bit better. I will say, and y'all can hate me for it, but I will say Mo Jeff is better than D-Rob already.
Of course.
No shot to D-Rob. D-Rob is a good player, but Mo Jeff shoots better. She plays defense better. I mean, they're probably equally as quick. So if you're San Antonio, you want to go with the younger player, that one that doesn't have, an injury issue, but it really does put them in a bad situation. And I would hate to be Vicki Johnson right now. So, and Ruth, I mean, they've got something they've got to figure out quickly.
Eric, in your mind, what do you think is the best case scenario for how the Stars, or what they should do with Danielle Robinson, again, coming off of the injury? And right now, as Marquez brought up earlier before he got in, she had a bit of a rough first game overseas. But in your mind, what is the best case scenario for the Stars to do with Danielle Robinson for 2017 in your mind?
I'm part of the camp that, would say trade her. I think you need to get the best possible. I just don't think she's a fit for the team moving forward. The lack of an outside shot really hurts her, and Achilles injuries aren't really anything to sneeze at. So I think I think you just give Mojek the keys to the car right now. She's got the potential to be the best point guard in the league, in my opinion. And with D-Rob, that's probably your best asset right now as far as trading goes. And you want to get as many, you want to get as much young talent as possible when you're rebuilding. So I think just that logic alone would say trade D-Rob. I'm not sure if she and Mojek can coexist on the same roster. They have a lot of guards right now anyway. So I would say maybe try and get a pick for her. This isn't the strongest draft, but if you do that, you can at least be a lot more selective with the players that you bring in, rather than try and shoehorn all these guards into the same roster that's really not going to be going anywhere anyway. So yeah, I would say try and trade D-Rob to a contender, maybe somebody who's who really needs a point guard, or somebody who would be willing to give up their first rounder.
Marquez, there's a trade proposal in the chat box from Todd. He's asking, if you are Ruth Riley, do you consider this trade proposal again is it's Daniel Robinson and presumably a package deal to the Liberty for Amanda Zawi B to be the starting center for SA. What do you think about this in your mind? What do you think?
I don't know. That kind of I think the jury is still out on Amanda Zawi B. I mean, she has potential, I think, but I don't know. She'll fit a need, but I don't think that's exactly. Oh God. I mean, like I said, she's shown flashes of what she can do, but I think defensively she's not that great, and offensively she's still trying to get there. So I don't really know. That may be a package that we could get, but I don't exactly know if that would be the best fit either, if that makes sense.
With that, guys, on to another subject here with the Stars tonight. Shorty, of course, Vicki Johnson. Of course, the news broke about her being named the next Stars head coach on our first show back before the holiday break came up, of course, a couple weeks ago. Shorty, with VJ having a pretty short leash this year, there's no margin for error pretty much with the contract deal she got. Shorty, how big of an uphill climb is she facing here in her first year as head coach of the team?
I mean, yeah, we've talked about, San Antonio being in rebuild mode. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of, moving pieces and moving parts that, they're going to have to add in between free agency and draft and things of that nature. But just overall, I mean, 1 year is not enough. It's not enough unless they're just giving her like a test trial for this year and are contingent on bringing her back, at least 2 more additional years, then maybe it might make sense. But just for 1 year, I mean, she's going to have to do a lot. She's going to have to do a lot, for the 2017 season. And just one thing for them, I would hope that, she would improve, San Antonio's defense. I mean, they weren't that bad in 2016. They were in the middle of the pack. They were ranked 5th in defensive rating and ultimately finished 7th. So that's one of the reasons why, even though they lost a lot of games, they were still, close in games because they had that defense. So ultimately, hopefully, Vicki Johnson will come in, rebuild the roster, improve their defense, and maybe they'll have improved season.
Reagan, what do you think about this? I mean, what kind of a mountain is Vicki Johnson climbing here again with such a short amount of time to really get this team back up to par?
I definitely think she needed more than a year. You can't turn a team around in a year, especially the Stars. I just don't feel like that's fair. But I mean, I hope she does it.
Marquez, what do you think about this again? Vicki J only getting, 1 year, getting 34 games at most, and she's getting a training camp, 34 games, and then end of story, it sounds like, to get this team back on track. Marquez, how big of a mountain is this that she's climbing to get this team back on track after, a very dismal 2016 campaign in your mind?
If you take a deeper look at it, I think it was a little bit surprising to see how short the deal actually was, considering the length it took to make the announcement or come to that decision. Because I know at the beginning of the process, a lot of people felt like she was the obvious choice. But as time went on, I think a lot of fans started wondering who could it be then? Because, I mean, if she was so obvious, she would have been probably immediately number 1 on the list. So I think maybe just maybe she wasn't exactly who they were looking for, and that may be the explanation for the small short-term deal. But I still think that she probably deserved a longer chance than just a year, because you can't really do much in a year. There's only so much you can do.
Of course, Crystal, the old saying that she used is, Rome wasn't built in a day. Crystal, in your mind, what do you think about Vicki Johnson facing, 1 year and that's it in regards to getting the Stars back on track?
I don't think that's fair. It sounds as if Ruth Riley wasn't sure who she wanted to pick, but had to pick somebody because training camp was coming up and free agency is coming up. So I think she kind of just went with the best bet. But I hope that they will re-sign her again. I feel like that's not enough to do anything. Somebody the appetizer, then not give them the meal. I mean, you're kind of like, all right, then what is this? I just paid. I didn't get what I wanted. So hopefully they do hook her up and give her another deal. And I would love to see her turn the team around. I mean, I think she can do some good things if they give her time. Now she's under pressure. Now she feels like I only have a year, so I have to make my best impression and do what I can. And have a year and has what she has on her roster, it's not really a lot to work with. So hopefully, they realize it and they say, okay, we'll give you another deal.
And Eric, what do you think in regards to, again, Vicki Johnson facing a pretty Herculean effort here, again, trying to rebuild the Stars pretty much from square one in only a year's time? What do you got?
It's not fair to her. I think, to be honest, the 1 year deal and the time that it took to announce it suggests that they didn't really want her as their head coach. I think Marquez would agree with me on that. It's kind of like she's just a stopgap, to be honest, and that's not fair at all, especially with a team that, as my previous panelists have said, that you can't really take that team from the depths of the WNBA to a playoff caliber. I mean, maybe playoff caliber. You don't know with the new playoff system, but a championship caliber team in the span of one season. So, maybe she'll impress and they'll give her a longer term deal. But to be honest, the 1 year deal just screams to me. We tried to interview other people. They didn't want it. So we'll just go with the in-house option.
Guys, one final topic, but first a reminder that the WNBA Heat Wave returns, guys, for its 21st season of Summer Hoops on Saturday afternoon, May 13th, when the defending WNBA champion LA Sparks will take on 2016 Rookie of the Year Breanna Stewart and 9-time All-Star Sue Bird and the Seattle Storm. Tip-off at 2 p.m. from Staples Center. The game in its entirety on ESPN. Coming up in roughly 4 months' time, but we'll get there sometime very soon. Shorty, real quick, one more question before we get out of here for the night. Shorty, for the Stars, what are your 2017 expectations?
My expectations, because, they're going to come into the season, continuing on rebuilding, I say maybe they will improve on their regular season 2016 totals, maybe 8 games, 9 games or so, 8-game, 9-game win, but ultimately another failed season, no playoffs.
All right, Reagan, how about you? What are your 2017 expectations for San Antonio?
I expect them to improve a little bit. I won't go too far with that. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this upcoming season. But if injuries don't come again, I expect them to at least win double digits, at least 10 games.
So Rap says 10 games. Marquez, you live and die with this franchise, like I said. What are your expectations for 2017?
I'm expecting at least one step forward in whatever aspect that may be. It seems like for the last couple of seasons we've been stuck in place because we haven't really made any advances towards our goals, which is frustrating in a sense, but I guess it can be expected considering we've been rebuilding for a while. But I think if you look at other teams around the league and how quickly they've been able to turn their chances with risks they've taken in the drafts or just players they've acquired through free agency, I just hope that we can at least increase our win total a little bit and compete even more so than we did last year.
And Crystal, what do you expect out of San Antonio for 2017, or what are you expecting, I should say, for 2017?
Can you hear me? My internet
Yes.
A little improvement. Would they had 7 wins this year? I think they're gonna have a little bit more wins this year. Probably no playoffs. Oh, okay, here I am. Probably no playoffs, but I do think a little improvement, and I would hope that they're healthier than they were this year or last year.
And Eric, what are you expecting for San Antonio this year?
Probably another lottery appearance, to be honest. I think Mo Jeff is going to be an all-star, but other than that, they don't really have a lot. It depends. I think a lot depends on what they do with the draft and how they handle their offseason. But at the same time, you can't really – you look at that roster and you think, well, where is that production coming from? And there's not a lot. So I don't really think you can realistically expect them to make a huge jump in one season.
Christy Wilson and I both agree we're in the ballpark of 10 to 11 wins for San Antonio this season. With that, though, folks, glad to be back here in 2017. We'll catch you folks tomorrow night when we recap the season for the Dallas Wings tomorrow night. St. Pat time, St. Pat place, St. Pat channel. But with that, though, folks, for Eric Nimchok, Crystal Thomas, Marquez Anderson, Reagan Patrick, and Tanisha Stewart, Cal McClurg signing off, folks. Good night and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.